Hey everyone, Matt here with a quick message. If you live in Los Angeles, consider coming to our networking meetup Monday, June 30th at 6 p.m. in Los Feliz at Mess Hall. Our pal, Tony Franklin, who's a previous guest of the show, he hosts a thing called Filmmakers Forum in Los Angeles. It's like an East Side meetup for filmmakers. I'll be talking. That's right. Yours truly. I'll, answer some questions. We'll hang out. It's a chance for you to meet me and more importantly, a ton of other filmmakers. So if you're around Monday, June 30th at 6 p.m., it is free. You can get yourself some treats, a little snack, a drink if you partake. And I hope to see you there Monday, June 30th, 6 p.m. at Mess Hall in Los Feliz. That's 4500 Los Feliz Boulevard. Come say hi. It'd be great to see you. Hey everyone, welcome to the 481st episode of Just Shoot It, a podcast about filmmaking, screenwriting, and directing.
This episode is brought to you by patrons Reese Miles Thomas, Paul Power, and Caroline Craighead. I'm Oren Kaplan.
And I'm Matt Unlow. Today, Oren and I are talking about how we make our creative decisions, which is basically the main part of the job, right? But when you're stuck with something that is maybe confusing, when there's maybe not a great choice, or maybe when there are too many great choices across every discipline that filmmaking covers, we're going to talk through our thought process.
Is directing just making choices? Like, is that the main thing? And we had this, you and I off the mic had this argument about AI, and you seem to be much less afraid of it than I am. But I kind of think of the director as the person on set, and before set, even more importantly, is given, here's some options for locations, here's some options for cast, here's some options for wardrobe, for pacing, for music, for editing, for cameras, for lenses, for looks. And our main job is just to make all those decisions and then communicate them properly to the people we're working with, even if we're kind of like one man, like communicating them to ourselves. And the reason like the AI stuff scares me is because I see our job as like, communicating to several people on set what to do as maybe just a creative director at an agency, or maybe just a screenwriter, or maybe just a producer can say like, well, it's an action movie with so-and-so and they're doing this and this.
Yeah.
They can just type it into the computer instead of having to have the people skills and the decision-making skills
to communicate that appropriately. Yeah, it's not inaccurate to say that I'm not afraid of it, but I think that you and I both embrace it in the ways that it can be empowering, for sure. In film school, maybe the biggest epiphany I had was that I found myself on set every once in a while saying to myself, it's good enough. And I made a rule that anytime I had that thought or impulse, that I would have to stop and check myself and really decide, is it good enough? Because, with finite resources, finite time, sometimes you just have to keep the ball moving, right? Sometimes you don't have time to fix it. Sometimes it is good enough. But oftentimes the things that I hated the most about whatever I'd shot were those things where I thought to myself, this is good enough. And I think AI is the epitome of good enough. Knowing how important it is to get it right and how hard it is to get it right, whether that's AI or on set or whatever, is going to continue to be a thing where people have to be involved. Is that a prompt mechanic instead of a production designer? In certain circumstances, yeah. But I know that that the way that we tell stories to each other and the human experience is in a very real way essential to people. And the humanity of it all is the thing that's the most important. The things that are surprising or confessional or unique in some way. And AI currently does not do any of that.
Yeah, I mean, and this is just it's not even worth talking about on a podcast because it's so ubiquitous. People saying that like it's all about the people.
Sure,
that no one wants to go have a conversation with an AI or like follow AI celebrities.
Which isn't true. You and I have conversations with AI on the daily for sure.
Yeah, but to me, it's a more granular issue. It's you say that when we're on set, we're like, yeah, that's good enough. Let's move on. But you and I,
no, I think it's the opposite. We're like, oh, we have to fix it now. Like that's the evolution.
Right. But it's just like, it's just a matter of scope to me. Like if you and I want to shoot a concert scene and we have 3 hours to shoot it, we're going to take 15 extras. We're going to put them in front of the camera, have them wave their feet. We're going to flare the lens with the light. We're going to try to put people on like a 4-foot stage and with some curtains and try to cheat the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we will never get our wide shot. So it'll never be like that epic thing that we imagined in our minds.
And I guess I'm saying that I think every listener who's paying attention can see where this goes. It's very easy to say, okay, well then let's go ahead and shoot the person on stage in a wide, leaving room for a crowd that's going to get generated by AI to fill in those gaps. And I'm okay with that, I guess is what I'm saying, right? But like, you still have to shoot the person and then fill in the background.
No, of course.
Right?
I'm kind of optimistic. I'm hopeful for the foreground people, and this is what I told you off the mic. My concern is that they're going to see this concert scene that we shot. M. Night Shyamalan shot these huge concert scenes for his movie. What was it called again? Trap.
It's pretty good. Josh Hartnett's pretty good in it, actually.
It's very M. Night, where you're like,
I really enjoyed it.
This movie is both horrible and kind of very fun to watch at the same time.
Yeah, it's camp. Perfect.
Yeah.
Bless him.
But, instead of saying, oh, we're going to spend, $1 million a day to get all these extras and do all these people, these people can do this for $10,000 a day, literally 1/100th of the amount of money. And the whole economy, and now that people are doing this for $10,000 a day, how much are they paying the director? They're not paying the director $10,000 a day.
Sure.
The whole thing, now they're paying the directors $500 a day. It just changes the whole scale of this business, and it makes it so it becomes not a financially viable business for the people that work in it, and it's like becomes more of a hobby, And so that's I'm worried about the way it scales the economy, because if as directors, kind of, I think the common idea, especially in commercials, but even in features and stuff, is like the director gets like their salary tends to be somewhere around 5 to 10% of the production budget,
anchored around the production budget.
Yeah. So if you're making $100 million movie, you would expect that the director is probably making $5 million, right? That seems about right. But if the production budget, in commercials, we talk about production budget. So $100 million movie is maybe a $60 million production budget, right? And so once those budgets get really small, because AI is letting us, instead of hiring, 100 extras, we're hiring one person to write one prompt. And we're running it 20 times, and we're using some credits up or something, and we're spending $1,000 on it. But it's just so much less than paying 100 extras there and feeding them.
And I think what you're describing right now is literally what's happening with vertical dramas, right? That's literally what's happening.
They've cut 60% of the frame out, and the budget is 60% lower.
Yeah. I think that, and then also, I think resourceful producers are using like virtual environments because the frame is so narrow. Like, you can use a big TV to get it done, right? Like, there's all sorts of stuff like that. But I think that
that is narrow thinking.
I'm a narrow-minded guy. Undeniably, it's going to change. But I think that the audiences still crave premium and authentic experiences, right? So, like, I think UGC isn't going away, and I think premium, emotionally moving, whether that's funny or sad or whatever, isn't going to go away. And like, the way that we make them is going to shift, absolutely. But
when I think of premium, I think Game of Thrones. I think White Lotus. I think we brought 1,000 people to Thailand to shoot this show,
right?
And now, do we need to send 1,000 people to Thailand to shoot this show?
I think
it's that same, because the gloss, the premiumness of it is what the AI can help with.
I think the answer for White Lotus is no. For
Game of Thrones,
or Game of Thrones, even no. I think you got to go full tilt on it. I think it's that middle ground that's going to be affected the most. We'll see. I don't know. I ain't no expert, that's for sure. But that's what my gut's telling me. Obviously, we're thinking about it on the daily. Who knows? Next week, it could be like, Oren, I got my real estate license.
Yeah. But, and it's, obviously, I'm curious to hear what our listeners think as well. But I do want to relate this to our main topic, which is making choices. And even, you're saying kind of the issue with AI is it doesn't really care about your choices. I think maybe it's letting you roll the dice, 10 times, and you might like something. But the reason we wanted to talk about this is because we're both literally just in the last 24 hours had to make a lot of creative choices. And no matter how long we're in this business, some of them can be really difficult. You have been doing casting, and I've been doing editing, which like literally editing is just picking the best takes and picking where to
casting is just picking the quote unquote right actor, right?
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your casting and why that would be tough. Don't you just audition actors and then pick the best one?
Yeah. I think that, sure, if only it were that simple. there's a handful of things in play, but the trick is one of the advantages of living in Los Angeles, even when it's non-union talent or FICOR or whatever, is you are surrounded by incredible actors.
Oh
right?
yeah.
And so, great casting directors know people who are ready to be in the room, and maybe people who are like a little too junior don't make it into that room yet, and get to skill up in other ways. But
And
by
you're
the
talking
time,
about the audition room, just
the audition room, yeah,
because
thank
you did your
yeah.
casting in person, which is
Correct.
which we didn't do at all until like a year ago.
Yeah,
right?
fleetingly rare, but chemistry was really important. And so I tried to do it remote, honestly. We did a handful of rounds and we realized, we just really need to see these people interacting with each other, see if
Because
they have
you're-
chemistry,
Sorry to shoot it, move and interrupt you, but you want to see you're casting two couples, and you want to see the couples interact with each other, or not. You don't want to see the two couples interact with each other. You want to see the two members of each couple.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And so their chemistry, their body language, just literally how they look next to each other. Like we brought in a guy who was 6'5", who you wouldn't realize is 6'5". I was like, dude, how tall are you? And he's like, like a great looking actor, right? And he's like 6'5". And we brought in a woman who was great, but who was probably a foot or two shorter than him. It was like when you're framing up the slate, we did a 2-shot just to see them next to each other, and you realize it's just the top of her head.
But I because I happen to know the project you're working on, I do know that these people are mostly sitting down.
Yeah, not the end of the world for sure, but does add context to things. Right. And maybe we play with that. Maybe that's really fun, or maybe that doesn't work. Right. But we wouldn't have known that if we didn't see them in the same room together, because people always have, just their phone at the right height. Right?
Back in my day, you would just get the yellow pages, which is this big book, and you would put it on the chair, and then it'd be the same height.
I mean, we did have conversations about adjusting people's heights. And I was like, look, everyone's seated. It's okay. Like we can boost people a little bit taller, a little bit shorter, however we need it. It's not going to be a problem.
I'll hook you up with my friend Zach King, and he'll show you how to build a set where it makes them look the same height.
Yeah.
Some
Peter
forced
Jackson.
perspective.
Peter Jackson, buddy.
I bet at this point, Zach King is probably better at forced perspective than Peter Jackson. But yeah, go on.
Why don't you ask them? 'Cause I don't know. I mean, look, they're both great. So anyway, the point is like, we saw a lot of great actors. So to your first question of like, don't you pick the best actor? By the time we've gotten through a couple rounds of callbacks and we're into chemistry, everybody's great. So like good or bad isn't even on the equation. Everyone's very good. And I often call back good actors who I want to see if we can make, like, if that X factor is there or not. I tend to call back a lot of actors.
Me too. I'm always like, let's not call back so many actors. Then they're like, well, Oren, the agency's happy to call back 6 and you want 15. And you're like, yeah. Well, I mean, this person has a cool look, and this person has said one funny thing. So I kind of want to see if that goes anywhere. I want to pull on that thread, which is, it's funny because part of our job is to make decisions, but part of what makes us good at our job, I think, I could be wrong, maybe Stanley Kubrick isn't like this, but I think is the openness to look at a lot of options and the excitement to look at all the different details and to go to the buffet at Sizzler and know.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We are like relishing and overeating at the buffet. Like every single bucket of kidney beans or garbanzo beans or olives or whatever, we're like, let's see here. Yeah, maybe I could build a whole salad around garbanzo beans. I actually love garbanzo beans. Let me try one.
This sounds more whole food salad bar, even soup plantation, and a little less Sizzler to me. But
yeah, that's true. I am a soup plantation guy, RIP. So I haven't been to a Sizzler in a long time.
Well, I think what's interesting, and this is again kind of related to this making the choice, is you might see a couple, so you're auditioning couples. So you might see a couple that's like kind of mean to each other and there's something funny about that. And you might see a couple that's like super lovey-dovey and like overly. And then you might see a couple that you and I were even talking about, this is unexpected. Like he's really nerdy and she's really cool, or
they're both conventionally super attractive or unique looking, or
she has a low voice and he has a high voice. How do you...
a little more mature, a little more naive, like all of that stuff. Yeah.
How do you decide what's the best for the project you're working on? Is it coming out of the script in the project, or do you have a philosophy on like if it's unexpected or if it's just makes you laugh? It's all about comedy.
Yeah, I think I've been thinking about it a lot.
Because you have to, because I think full disclosure, you haven't finished casting.
I haven't finished casting. In 50 minutes, I'm going to have a conversation with a creative team about it, and I need to know, right? I've narrowed it down to my favorites, right?
Yeah.
But that's still too many people. You can only cast one actor, right?
And do you put them all on avail?
They're all on avail.
So, and for our listeners that don't know, that means you're calling their agents and you're saying, hey, please make sure Mike and Vanessa are available on this shoot date, and let us know if there's any issues, because they're on our final list.
They do not know how many people are also on that final list.
How many? Can you tell us how many people are on that list?
3 for each role.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm disappointing 2 actors. Yeah.
Yeah. And you hear, ooh, you're on avail for this job. You're down to 1/3 chance.
And honestly, like, even saying it out loud makes me want to cry. Like I talked about it on the show. Years ago, I had really turned a corner on casting, where I used to kind of dread it because I felt so much empathy for actors and knew that most of them weren't going to get it. And now I try to make the auditions as collaborative and fun, and like treat it like a real acting experience. Even if, like, this is the 7, probably more like 10 minutes that you're going to get to be this character. Let's do it, right? Let's explore together. Let's find stuff. I get to direct and you get to act, right?
Yeah.
And also not worry about all of the other stuff.
Right. I might have asked you this before, but have you ever told an actor that did not get the role, like reached out to them and said, hey, it was so close, it was between you and someone else, I have loved you and I hope to work with you in the future?
However, there were a few actors that I will reach out to if they don't get it. Specifically because we mixed and matched them so much that they were having a really good time. I can't imagine they wouldn't be pretty bummed if they didn't get it. And I teach
like you feel like they left the room thinking they probably got it.
Yeah.
I had a reader one time tell me, I was doing casting. She's like, Oren, you're so nice to the actors. I'm like, oh, well, thanks. She's like, well, I don't know if it's a good thing. I'm pretty sure every actor thinks they booked this role that came in here today.
And the opposite used to be true for me. A reader was like, dude, people think that they flopped that audition, and I know you loved it. And so, yeah, it's emotional, honestly, and again, we're both married to actors, so we understand the flip side of like, oh, honey, how'd it go?
Yeah. By the way, we also are very, very familiar with rejection.
Sure. Yeah, I got rejected this morning,
Yeah, sorry. I have other lunch plans.
Yeah, I thought for sure you'd want a $20 salad, but I nailed the invite.
A discount salad place.
Yeah. So where were we though?
How you pick that actor.
How you pick the actor. And so I think that there's a handful of things. I think if we're working with a brand that's kind of been around for a long time, a legacy brand, what people like to call them, or a heritage brand. This is not that, but like a heritage brand is like, oh, it's been around for 100 years. Ford is a heritage brand. Right. Levi's is a
John Deere.
Brand. Yeah, exactly. Like you can evoke the emotional resonance of knowing this brand for your whole life. Your grandpa has a relationship with
Quaker Oats.
Yeah. This one's been around long enough for sure. And so there is a question of like, okay, like how can I mix it up? How can I surprise people? How can I speak to their audience more authentically, right? Like the demo is a little younger than me, right? And so like checking my taste against the zeitgeist, right? And then also like, who do I think is gonna explore the most with me? Who is a little bit more rigid, who gets it the most, who has instincts that really match ours.
Those are words that I use a lot. Like when I watch auditions, I just like write like very short notes on each actor, and I'll use the term gets it, smart. Like I love a smart actor, and some of the best actors are actually not that smart. They're really instinctual ones, but I like really technical actors. And to me, something that sometimes will trump a performance or a look, and sorry, I didn't mean to use that term in a positive light, but it will be like how technical an actor is, like how they're hitting their marks. Or even they might ask me a question like, okay, are you like, is the frame like this? I'm like, ooh, I love that they just asked me the size of the frame, because I know that they are thinking about what we're making here. Yeah, and I know that on set, they will be allies in the filmmaking and not just waiting to ask me.
That's fascinating, because I think I use the term gets it as well. And I use it in a very different way, actually, because
well, gets it. I mean, in terms of the concept, like they understand the game or the joke or whatever, like the premise, and they can riff on it.
So, and that's important because there are lots of very funny, spontaneous, in the moment actors. But if you're riffing in the wrong direction, even if it's very funny, it's not usable. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we're doing a cereal commercial and we're talking about how like the cereal is so good it literally blows your mind, and someone is riffing of like, oh man, I'm spilling milk all over my pants, right? Like even if they're like an incredible slapstick physical comedian and it's truly so funny and surprises us and we haven't seen it and like catches us off guard, the joke is about how your mind is blown.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Like, but you got to lean into that premise rather than inventing your own, right?
Yeah,
and you'd be so that sounds fundamental. You'd be surprised, right? How many people like just aren't that normally they're not that far off the mark, but you know, don't get it. Like it almost is always around the product too. It's like
sometimes you see someone that's so funny and so talented and they just don't understand advertising, and you see their instincts are going super blue or super raunchy or violent or aggressive or anything. And you're like, literally, I'm just afraid to have that energy on set because sometimes we have time for 2 takes and you're going to ruin the take by making a weird eye roll or something. But sometimes I'll just see actors like an Eddie Blackwell or Kira Cook or these people who are just A+++ auditioner. Like on them, sometimes they're like totally wrong for the part, but I'll say to the agency, I'll be like, yeah, Eddie, I mean, this guy, there's a reason he books 1,000 things because he comes in and he instantly is in it, and you throw him a note and he instantly gets what you're talking about.
Yep.
And so that stuff is super important beyond like who the character is to me, because sometimes I just want a partner on set that knows what they're doing. So I don't have to be in charge of them.
I always teach the kids in my class, like, because they're method actors, you know, I always tease them, you know, the cliche question an actor asks is, what's my motivation? And the answer in every single commercial is that your problem is solved by the product. Always. Your life is better thanks to the product. So if you're ever riffing off of that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, just thinking of your commercial in a way,
100% it is thanks to the product.
No, but the other people that they're interacting with.
Oh, sure. That's true. Yeah. They are responding
to that motivation. To people who have that motivation.
Sure. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
But yeah,
they still see the product in a positive light.
I've convinced myself that if I'm having a really hard time making a choice between 2 choices or making a decision between 2 choices, they're equally good or equally bad. And it doesn't really matter. And I shouldn't dedicate too much time to deliberating between those 2 choices.
Yeah. I think that in general, that's right. I think 90% of the time, that's exactly right. And I think in my case, the challenge, and I think we can shift to yours as well, the ripple effects of this decision are so extreme. Casting's everything. Editing's everything. Like the question is, do I want my spot to be this vibe or that vibe? Both good vibes.
So how do you choose?
I think you look at the brief. I think you think about the
when you say you're talking about like the script, basically.
The script, yeah. Like in this case, like what's the persona? Who's the demo? Who are we marketing towards? Who are we trying to appeal to?
Why are we making this?
Why are we making this?
To generalize it to any filmmaking.
Yeah, exactly. Who do I need to connect with, and what do I need to make them feel?
Right. And which of these actors maybe tells that
story. Yeah.
But see, to me, often the question is, do I want to tell the story in a more clear way? Because, you know, I love clarity. It's my number one thing about filmmaking is like tell a story that people understand. Or do I want to make it in an interesting and unique way? And a lot of times those 2 are at odds with each other.
Yeah. Though I think in the case of casting, that's less. The casting there are circumstances where I guess casting can make it more clear. If you needed a huge dichotomy between the 2 characters, you need tall and short. The tallest guy is going to be clearer. Like if they're kind of tall.
But if you have like a Romeo and Juliet scene and, you know, they have kind of traditional and they're seeing each other across the room and love at first sight, like you kind of expect them to look in certain ways or be doing certain things, right? Like,
yeah, that's interesting. You know, I can think of a team when we did a Romeo and Juliet riff. I can't remember for what brand. And the casting, you know, they were young for sure. I think it was relatively diverse. Like, did they seem like Italian teenagers? No, right? Like, which is who Romeo and Juliet traditionally were. Did they seem like people in like a Romeo and Juliet-esque play? Did it feel theatrical and maybe not? It wasn't meant to feel like a high school production or whatever, but like, did it feel in that sort of world? Yeah, for sure. If they were dressed like Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio, and she's not in, white angel wings and he's not in like a red Hawaiian shirt, probably confused. Were they in like, like billowy shirts and like, tall hats and shit like that? Yeah, absolutely. So you got it immediately. That's not a casting decision. That's a wardrobe and set decision,
Right. It's funny. I did this Popeyes spot last year, maybe the year before, where this guy is in the office and he's eating really like a dry granola bar. Kind of reminds me of like those Nature's Valley, like the super dry granola bars. And he's like, "Is this?"
Who likes those really? I'm
I
sure
keep
somebody
meeting
does.
people that like them. I'm so confused. I'm like, I literally use these to soak up puddles, like around my house.
Try some cardboard.
Yeah. But so he's like eating one of these at lunch, and he stands up at the desk, and he's like, "Is this what lunch has become? Like, is lunch this boring? Like, we got to do something." And he starts this revolution, like a Che Guevara kind of style revolution. He stands up on the desk, and he gets all the office workers like, "We got to eat something delicious for lunch, like Popeye's new golden barbecue chicken sandwich." And everyone's like clapping and hooting and hollering, and it's funny. And he, we wanted to cast someone kind of attractive, just because he's like a leading man vibes. But we kind of ended up with two choices. One was a little bit of an everyman, and the other one was this guy that just cracked me up. He was like a straight, like, think of Jack Black as a high school student doing like Little Shop of Horrors. He was like a drama kid through and through. Even his voice, he would talk, like you think he's going to break into song at any moment. And he was like not conventionally like leading man material, but he was just had that like Jean Valjean energy. And I was like, this is so funny.
He's
and
our guy.
I used his audio in my animatic and everything. And I was like, this is it. It's just so unexpected. It's so funny and so weird. And then we ended up casting the other guy.
Yeah, it's hard. I think when you're casting by committee, oftentimes it's the hottest person who gets it.
And the other guy was great too. He was like the expected casting. He's like leading man material.
Yeah. So what's tricky about this one is that I think all of the people we're looking at are conventionally attractive, but in different ways. And it struck me that who each person thinks of as the most attractive, as the quote unquote hottest, is different for each person. Do you know what I mean? Like, I have had multiple conversations where like someone has been like, "Oh, well, that person is clearly the hottest." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like everybody has a type, like, and again, talking about class, I tried to tell actors like, so much of it is out of your control. You might just look like somebody's ex-wife.
Yeah, and to clarify, you're talking about acting class, not about like different classes that people are.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I talk a lot about casting in acting class that I teach.
Yeah, well, so I guess it's interesting to make decisions, and we have to at some point make a decision, and especially if it's like you were mentioning indie films earlier, like when it's our own project, it becomes even more nerve-wracking and more important, and it's not by committee, so you feel like if you make the wrong decision, it's bad.
I think that I find it's a little easier once you get over that initial realization, like you were saying before, of like both choices are equally good or bad, and you just have to make one. When you're the decider, quote unquote, I find I sweat it a lot less, in that my decision-making skills have evolved because of all the other stakeholders. Right? When I was doing web series and stuff, I was like, I like this, I don't like that. These are both good. Let's go with that one. You just don't have time to.
Have you ever recast an actor? Like you shot with them and you're like,
Sure. Have I made mistakes in every category? Absolutely. Of course I have. But it's 100% on my shoulders. And so I can learn from that and grow from that and, not curse someone else's name. Like, I can't believe the client picked this person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm reading that book by Jimmy Burrows directed by James Burrows. He's, he directed Will and Grace and Friends and Cheers and all this stuff. And he said that sometimes he will just make a decision on set and then see it play out. And people will ask him, like, should I open the fridge or should I close the fridge? Before I say the line or after I say the line? He'll be like, let's do it before you say the line. And they'll do it. And then he'll say, okay, it was great trying that out. Definitely the wrong choice. Let's do the other way.
Yeah.
And that there's something.
And that happened even to like yesterday in casting. You know? Yeah.
There's something great about just making fast decisions and realizing they're wrong quickly.
Yeah. My final bit of acting conversation, and then we absolutely need to pivot to editing. Stop me if I said this on the show already, but I have a spot for Fountain of Youth come out.
Oh, you haven't? It's really fun.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I feel really good about it. And I think that there's a lot of improv in it. And so for listeners who don't follow me on social media and haven't seen this spot, essentially we shoot like a fake junket where the stars of the Apple TV Plus film Fountain of Youth show up, but surprise, surprise, they all drank from the Fountain of Youth and are actually children. So instead of an adult Natalie Portman or John Krasinski or Domhnall Gleeson or Isa Gonzalez, it's a bunch of kids. And so you can imagine that's for kids under 10 on set. It's a bit of a challenge for sure. And I think everyone was really pleased, myself included, with how it turned out. It's funny, it's loose, it's cute in the right ways. It felt really good to see that edit come together. But the thing that I did at the top, which I do with all actors, but because they were kids, I really wanted to be explicit. I literally sat on the ground, I circled them up all on the same level and talked to them about how there's no such thing as good or bad acting, or doing it right or doing it wrong. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to try things out that work and try things out that don't work. And so the only thing I didn't want them to do was, if they fumbled the line, get upset, right? Because we don't know what's going to work and we're just going to do it again. If you need to go again, that's not a big deal. And it did help create an environment where kids were throwing out ideas. There's an 8-year-old who was like, I have an idea. I'll just say it. Ready? And then threw out stuff that absolutely made the cut.
That's
right?
awesome.
Yeah. It was really fun. It was truly rewarding, actually. It was great.
I do the exact opposite on my sets. make sure all the kids know that I can just pluck any kid off of Hollywood Boulevard that wants to be an actor more than them. And if they fuck up even one time, then I do that.
Yep.
Slate your throat.
Yeah.
Hand
I like to do just the thumb and nice and slow.
Yeah.
It's more menacing. Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Have you been watching Last of Us? They have some.
No.
Oh, they have some slicing hand gestures. Anyhow, yeah. So making choices still difficult even after all these years. And my editing process. So one of the curses of being a director editor, and I think everybody knows this, is that the footage just becomes so much more precious for you.
Can I ask a technical question for you? Because you have all the footage.
Yeah.
Are you buying a new drive every single time you shoot a job?
Well, I try to get the production company to buy me a drive.
To buy you a drive, yeah.
Or just to give me one of the drives. I don't know anyone that doesn't make at least 2 copies of the footage. And so the company takes 1 copy and they let me take the other copy. But I always travel. I have like a couple 4 terabyte drives. And sometimes if it's too much footage, I'll just take the proxies.
All my drives are full.
Dude, just buy 1 4 terabyte drive and just get the proxies if you don't have room for all the raw files.
That's how I have literally 2 drawers full of drives.
Oh yeah, I have like many storage containers full of little hard drives I'll probably never touch. But when you do, so I've told everyone about Tropical Smoothie Cafe. It was like that giant project that had many wrenches thrown into it at the beginning of the year for me. And I'm working on my director's cut, and I'm just, I want to change out a lot of takes, and I want to edit it in a slightly different way and change the transitions. And we must have done, because we shot so much on green screen, because remember our actress, her appendix ruptured and she couldn't make it to set, but we only needed to get 4 lines from her. So we have 50 takes of each line.
Could you have all day to get it exactly right?
I had an entire day to shoot 4 lines on green screen.
Yeah.
I think a normal editor that wasn't also the director would go to the last take. Maybe they'd even look at the script notes, something that I still contend almost nobody has ever done. But they'll probably go to the last take and they'll be like, oh, this works. If it doesn't work, they'll go a take earlier. If the take's too slow, they'll go a take earlier. Too fast. But what I do, like a total insane maniac, is I watch all 50 takes once. And this takes me half an hour. Then
easy.
And literally it's 1 line.
Yeah.
It's, I think the line I was looking at, and it's with the camera move. So it's even a little more complicated. And of course we did some with the camera move, some without the camera move. And our actress says, somebody had to give Good For You a glow up. And, someone had to give Good For You a glow up. Now let's hit the Good For You. Let's do a glow up. Let's throw it away. Now you're a rich woman. Now you don't even care. Now you're so excited, And I'm just watching.
I'm always throw it away. That's always what I want.
Yeah. But I think because I'm trying to create some momentum in this cut, I'm trying to think which other takes I've chose. Because she kind of did every line in 10 different ways. And I'm just trying to get through it faster. I'm trying to use her fast takes. like, welcome to Tropical Smoothie Cafe, as opposed to welcome to Tropical Smoothie Cafe, which is much more relaxing and maybe even thematically more right. But I want to be able to use the fast takes of every scene.
Do you ever speed them up?
Yeah, but on this I don't, because there's so many camera moves and extras walking around and things and trees blowing in the wind, which is the worst thing when you're trying to speed up footage. I'm trying to not do it as much.
You're the, I guess.
Yeah, VFX, but
you could speed her up and everything else could be the same speed. Right.
Yeah, no, not with the camera moves and stuff.
Yeah,
so
right.
It becomes then you have to completely erase her from every shot. And
and also the camera move, the speed at which she scales has to match the background.
Yeah, you have to cut her out, stabilizer, reverse stabilizer, track her to that. Yeah, it's a pain in the butt. But I will watch all 50. I have a sequence where I just cut all the juicy stuff. Like I take away the slate and everything, just so I can look at these 50 takes, the half an hour worth of takes. And then I'll watch it again and I'll take the takes that I think are good and I'll move them up one track. So now I've got it from 50 takes down to 30 takes. Then I'll do it again. I'll move them up another track. And at the end, I have 7 takes that have bubbled up to the top, and I'm like, oh, I like the camera move on this one. I like this. And I don't even know what I like anymore because I've just seen this so many times and they don't even sound like words. And then I'll bring them all into the timeline, stack them on top of each other and just enable them one at a time and see how they cut with the shot before and after and how the music works. And the problem with this one is because almost every shot is some sort of visual effects shot. I have to commit because once I choose the take, then I have to track it and roto and do all the stuff. So I can't change out takes. So I just find it highly stressful. And I still, it's funny. I saw someone on Twitter or Threads or Instagram say it shouldn't, if you have 25 minutes of footage to edit a 30-second video, it shouldn't take you more than 4 hours or something. Yeah. But I spent 12 hours yesterday.
I think that is true for certain types of content, quote unquote, and not true for the sort of work that you're describing, right? Because what you're saying is that there are too many variables that make something good or not, right? Yeah. And that's not just performance. It's does the camera move work? Does the continuity work? All of those other elements that oftentimes in something less intricate, you can fudge much more. Do you know what I mean? If I've got 2 guys sitting on a couch and one guy says the joke too slow and we have a faster take, that's the better take, right? Yeah. If we're trying to get it into a 30 and there's one joke, right?
Right. And oddly enough, performance is kind of the easiest thing for me to not worry about because I'd say about 50% of my shots, this edit has probably 20 shots in it or something. About 50% of my shots, I take my audio for my favorite take and I put it on the video of my favorite take.
Yeah. It's not that hard. And also so much is happening. You said, there's all this VFX and camera movement and stuff. No one's going to notice microsecond of lip flap is off or whatever. It's all fine. Right.
Yeah. I mean, she's saying the same thing. It's not like improv takes. So she's saying the same exact words in every one. So I can kind of lip sync it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think you just have to have criteria of what makes it good. And because it's no longer about performance, it's really does it meet the most technical aspects that you need? Right.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of have this very vague idea of what's the coolest? Which one looks the coolest? Which shot is the widest? To me, a wide shot is always better than a tight shot. Number 1 is pacing. Number 2 is there an opportunity for a laugh, for a comedic moment or a smile? If I cut in close to an expression of some guy rolling his eyes or a bird flying in or something, is that going to be more satisfying than seeing it in a super wide shot where your eye might miss it? And then I go to what's the most kind of epic, beautiful, scopy, production value shot. Yeah. And my problem is my edits end up being really cutty because I'm just
I was going to say,
want to use every single thing.
And when you say pacing, you mean pacing within the shot, not pacing within the whole piece, right?
I mean how it cuts to the next shot in the previous shot. Yeah. Sometimes pacing within the shot, but it's mainly, does it match the pacing? If I'm let's do a faster take, is it now feeling weird? And a lot of times I'll take audio. When I have a cut, I'll choose the audio I like better, either from the A side of the cut or the B side of the cut, and just put that under the entire take because it can be really jarring when you cut a sentence in half
100%
from 2 different takes.
Yeah, absolutely. What's interesting to me about all of this is that you're a director who tends to, I'm not sure I want to say this on the air, but whatever. You're a director who tends to not like the agency cut, the final cut, Right. You almost
Yeah.
always want to tweak something.
This year I had one cut that I really loved, the agency cut, and I was like, I think I was telling you about it. I'll just shout it out. Well, actually, I won't shout it. So if anyone's listening, yes, it's definitely your cut. But I was like, holy cow.
You loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I've never just like loved the agency cut.
But I think that the reason why you don't like some cuts and agencies do like the other cuts, their cuts, is because your priorities are miscalibrated, right? Like they're mostly worried about how does the product look? Are we showing off one of the key components in the right way? Like, is it early enough in the edit? So like all of that stuff of like, oh, is there momentum? Are we setting the right pace and the right tone? All gets trumped by, the mandates of the brand, right?
Right. Well, I had 2 gigs this past year, Canon, Yeti, where I really is not a huge fan of like our final color grade because they were really committed to the colors of the printer being accurate, but they're very non-cinematic, And then Tropical Smoothie Cafe too, which is similarly, I kind of felt like we had a really cool look on set that kind of got TV-ified a bit. And both of those spots like tested through the roof. They're like, these are testing so well, and Canon, we're going to do more now. Like they're so happy with the results, and because they're measuring it by like how the like public demo takes them, and how they're testing, which I don't even think testing,
right? Which is
a thing.
It's not our art.
Yeah,
it's advertising.
Right. But for me, there's art. Obviously, I want it to be artistically satisfying, and I want to be able to show it to someone and have them say like, ooh, that's actually pretty cool. But even more important than that is I want people to see the work and be like, ooh, this is a person that I would like to work with.
Right. They have taste or something like that.
I want to put it on my website.
Yeah.
And I will not put it on my website if there's even 2 embarrassing cuts in it, or the color grade just feels like totally wrong, or the music.
Color grade's the big one for me.
Silly.
Yeah, color grade's the big one for me, because I think your point of like going too hard into TV land, makes it feel cheap. Right. Like the color grade is the biggest indicator of overall taste. Right.
Yeah. It's just unrefined. Like the spots that I told I really liked, my rep, Nikki Weiss, said to me, like she texted me, she's like, oh, I love these new spots. They're so elevated. And I was like, yeah, that's your way of saying that all my other stuff feels like it's made for children. We work so hard on set to create the pieces, the building blocks of making something really cool and refined and interesting. And then it's just kind of, grinded down to test well. Sometimes it's hard. But anyhow, so I'm curious how other people make editing choices. I know Matt Barber, who's like an old guest of ours, amazing editor, edited like 1 million TV shows you've watched. And even, actually I haven't talked to Eric Kissack about this, but I know Matt would always just be like, we start at the last take and then we work backwards, And when with improv, with comedy, with like long narrative stuff, it's a different thing. You're kind of building setups. I think
you look at the first and the last, and then kind of work your way into the middle for me.
Yeah, and if you are working with like incredible performers, you sometimes can even just every take is good. So you're like, well, I want to be wide here, and I want to be tight on this line. I want to be, and you edit around in that way instead. So. Yeah, I mean, I guess just to like round off this conversation about making choices, I do think like, are there choices that as a director, it's totally acceptable to not make, to say like, to delegate to other people? Do you have those things?
When you wrote this question in our notes, I thought to myself, oh, Oren's talking about wardrobe, right? Because historically, like I've said, you're like, I'm not sure that I care about this unless there's a very specific color story you're going for, or you're trying to say something about class or status.
No,
or
I've moved
like
180 degrees on that.
You care about it completely. Yeah.
Yes, just because I gave up the reins a couple times because I thought it's really hard to mess up. Because, sometimes we talk about the commercial uniform, like moms always wear a cardigan, like a striped shirt, mom jeans, whatever. Like, guys always want like layers, like a flannel and this. Like, there's just these looks. And I'm like, yeah, just do the commercial look and, it looks good. And then I just handed off the reins too many times and let agencies and other people pick the clothes or even actors. I'm like, this does not look good. Like, the colors, the textures, the fabrics, the highlight, and the styles. And I've really, my brother made this music video for his band. I'm 100% no, he's not listening to this, but it was such a good concept. It was a oneer where they like wrote all this stuff out with the water and amazing concept. But everyone was just wearing like their street clothes. And I was like, dude, his name was Liev. I was like, Liev, imagine if everyone
was in
coveralls,
tuxedo. Yeah, sure.
Or coveralls or something. Like, you would take this video from a 4 to a 9, you know, like,
yeah.
So I'm a huge believer that wardrobe is important. I do think that I, for many years, didn't feel like I could talk about it in a way that was like people would come in and they'd use these words like, oh, like put that infinity scarf on, and then maybe we can get like a little button up, you know, cord, but maybe a loose thing. Like, and I was like, I don't know what language you're talking.
And I'm sure I've said this on the podcast before. If you don't have the same vocabulary as the crafts people you're working with, that's totally okay. That's the plant. They know more than you do. That's why they're doing their job. You can always talk about the generalities of like, oh, I need them to feel younger, or I need them to feel more upscale, or more casual, or whatever. You have the vocabulary to communicate, and then they can say, okay, well, you know, typically a person this age would wear this or that, or like, yeah, this does feel a little mature or a little too office and a little less casual. All of that stuff is on the table. You know, I think that when it comes to wardrobe specifically, I will always go through and pull anything that I'm not okay with. Anything where I'm like, I don't think this is going to look good. Like, I don't like this texture. I don't like this color or whatever. And I've kind of done my best to say all of that well before they've even shopped for it, so we don't have too many things that are like not clicking, and so that I'm okay with any decision that ultimately gets made, because it is important to me that like an actor feels comfortable in the wardrobe, right? Like that they like what they're wearing and maybe feel a little empowered. It's first way for me to let them be empowered.
Yeah, which by the way, please have mirrors at your fittings.
Sure.
You want the actors to know what they look like.
Yeah, and feel it. Yeah, for sure. But to that end, I think that that's the closest I ever get to quote unquote not caring about something, is to like enough options that I'm okay with sort of like handing over the reins a little bit, or voicing what my favorite is, and then having a group conversation. That's fine. But if there's something that I don't like, that I don't think matches the vision of the piece, then we need to extricate it from the conversation first and foremost. And that can get tricky because most of the time we're not able to hide things early. Wardrobe's easy because I'm there before clients there. So if something somehow got through and ended up on the rack, it's easy to take it out. But there are plenty of other things where something comes up in the moment, and then you have to be political of like, hey, this is why I think this works or not. Right?
Yeah. And my move is always like, let's bring this and these options that I like, and let's see how they look on camera. And, you know, 4 out of 5 times I think I'm right, and 1 out of 5 times I'm wrong.
Sure.
When I wrote this on our outline, though, delegating choice making, I didn't really mean like stuff I don't care about.
Okay.
I meant meant it in 2 things. One is trying to take all the like decision making from off of your own responsibility list, and hiring people whose taste you really like. So for example, production designers say, hey, I want them, they're sitting on a couch, they're in the living room. I don't know exactly the shape of this living room or what it looks like, but I want to have layers, and it's roommates living in Sydney, Australia. Maybe there's a hallway or a kitchen or something in the background that just gives depth. Like, show me some options. And that's instead of you, like, because I used to be like, I'll render the whole thing in Blender and show you exactly what it looks like.
Yeah.
Or I'll find locations and send you an entire mood board with all these references. And I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to like find someone who it's made amazing work and have them do that. And same with the cinematography. Even we have, you know, I've been shooting with like kind of some cool like we have dollies and cranes and little things. And sometimes I'll be like, hey, they'll be like, what's the shot in here? And I'll say, I don't know. I want it to be like a medium shot, but can you find me some cool angles, some interesting things, some cool camera moves? Just show me a couple things. And I try to have like the cinematographer, camera operator, Steadicam op, like show me some things, because I don't want to like decide that on my own. And sometimes I will see 2 camera moves. I'll be like, I love both of these. I'll ask the DP, like, what do you think? Which one would you? So that's what I'm trying to do more. It's not like have every single answer thought, and say like, and it's funny, you know, there's that film school director joke of like, how many light bulbs does it take to change a light, or how many film school directors does it take to change a light bulb?
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I'm trying to come back a little bit to minus the, I don't know. It's more like, this is really fun, but I'm worried it's a little slow. But this one is beautiful, but does it say what we need? Like help me bring those 2 things together and solve it for me.
It makes me think of like, Tina Fey talks about this in Bossy Pants, actually, that like oftentimes people are coming at it from their own perspective and trying to plus whatever it is they can plus, right? Like sometimes you just need a birthday cake and not, you know, a giant birthday cake that Frank can jump out of, because that's not the joke. The joke is that Jenna brought a birthday cake on the wrong day.
To a funeral.
Right. Yeah, to a funeral. There you go. Better. And so I think that what that really illustrates is that we have a better understanding of the big picture than everyone else. So you asked a cinematographer, hey, what do you think? This shot or that shot? Depending on the level of experience and breadth of work, but oftentimes cinematographers will go with the quote unquote cooler shot, the bigger shot, the more dramatic shot, right? The quote unquote cinematic shot.
Yeah.
And
In general, I'm okay with if they're the same,
Yeah, you would have stepped in and been like, hey, doesn't serve the purpose that I need to serve it. So it's not even on the table. That's our gig, right?
But that's why it's so important to hire people. More important than their reel or their resume is their taste, which
100%.
Usually you can tell from the reel or the resume. But
so the reel and resume is always going to be limited by the jobs that they've been hired to do,
right.
Which is the tricky thing. The other thing that this conversation brought to mind is that the best thing I think about working in commercials is we have learned to prep and communicate with people in advance. We've had more reps than if you were even on a TV show or certainly a feature, right? And so by the time you're getting to set, we've already done multiple presentations and multiple rounds of notes on all of the props and all of the set dressing and all of the wardrobe and everything. We've talked about it ad nauseum for what's going to be 30 seconds or 60 seconds worth of footage or maybe a larger campaign. But the point is like under 5 minutes, absolutely. We figured it all out already in minute detail. And so you can take that and then transpose what's important to you and what stuff maybe you don't prioritize as much to your longer form work. That's the thing for sure.
Yeah. No, it's interesting to think about. My one last observation about choice making from yesterday, I was thinking about my in-laws are coming into town for a week, and
you're going to figure out what to get for dinner.
Well, no, but Karen
the biggest decision.
That is a real pain in the butt.
Yeah.
But Karen and I thought, maybe we can leave our kids with them for 3 nights and go travel somewhere.
Oh.
Where should we go? Where's a cool place to go as a couple in August? I thought New York City is awesome, but everyone's like, it's going to be horrendous.
Really?
Yeah. So we're thinking about Vancouver. We're thinking about different things. And I was like,
have you been to Vancouver?
I have not been to Vancouver.
It's awesome. It's really awesome. Yeah.
So that's good to hear. But one of the things I was thinking is Google now, if you go to google.com, it has an AI mode and it's kind of like ChatGPT, but it searches the web, basically does searches for you. And you can say like, hey, we're a couple, we're doing like 3 nights away from our kids. We want to go to a place where the weather's good and end of August. Start giving me recommendations and searching the web. And it occurred to me that, obviously a lot of people are doing this now. Probably 2 years from now, everyone's going to be doing this. Like, hey, where should I go on vacation? At some point, we're all going to be going to vacation at the exact same place because the AI has optimized where we should
to
go.
The middle. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like Google Maps. When it first started, like everyone was being routed the same way. So traffic was so bad. And then they started incorporating all the traffic data and now they route you. They try to distribute the traffic. But it just occurred to me that like the more we use AI to make choices, the more we'll all start making the same exact choices and the less individualistic we will be. And so, I don't know. Maybe we can just like, can you imagine being at a pre-production meeting? And they're like, what shirt do you like better? And you just have like your AI listening and the AI is like,
oh, statistically speaking, people click on red shirts more
attractive.
Yeah.
Anyhow, it's sorry to bookend with AI.
Truly dystopian, Oren.
It is the world we live in. Matt, I know you got to go, but before that, do you have just 2 minutes to endorse
2 minutes
something?
to endorse? I do actually, Oren.
Unpaid endorsements.
You've got a 3-year-old at home. You must be familiar with 4, pardon me. Didn't get an invite to the birthday party. It's easy to forget.
Sorry.
It's okay. Loog guitars. You must be familiar. They're those beautiful
like
little
the guitars.
They're kid guitars, but the difference between, besides price point, is like the design is that they're meant to essentially be the kid scale version of a real guitar, but with fewer strings, but all of it translates. So if you learn anything on your Loog guitar, it scales up with you to a full size guitar. And we've been having a great time with them. But I will say,
and Nora uses it.
Nora loves it.
Oh, cool.
But she got it for Christmas. It's May now. She just fell in love with it. And it's because I finally got her a guitar strap as well. So that's really what I'm endorsing is the guitar strap so that the kid can hold it. Okay. If you don't have kids, if you don't want to spend money on a guitar, here's the other thing. If you have facial hair, or just hair on your body. The King C Gillette cordless beard trimmer is the
Really?
best beard trimmer I've ever had. Yeah.
Did you just get it and you've
I
had
just got
multiple ones?
I've had multiple ones, and I lost the charger for my previous one.
Yeah.
You and I are both kind of like 5 o'clock shadow stubble guys, right?
Yeah.
And
King
so-
C Gillette.
King C Gillette cordless beard trimmer. It was a wire cutter recommendation. It's $38. And the thing that I like about it is that the guard is kind of just attached to it, and you just dial up or down. I always like having to swap guards was always such a pain in the butt, and I would always essentially just like shave to like really close, lose all my beard, and then a week from now, my wife would be like, "Oh, your beard looks the right length now." And with this, I found much more luck with just kind of doing a not quite as close a shave and kind of maintaining that length that I like.
Yeah. Mine right now has like a guard that you slide up and down. But
Yeah.
I might get, I wouldn't mind a new beard trimmer.
So far, I like it. Like I said,
Do you have, do you use the one of my first endorsements ever? The beard
What?
bib?
no.
Dude, so you just make a mess in the bathroom every
I
time
just
you-
make a mess in the bathroom.
Dude, get the beard bib. It's the best thing ever.
I don't remember you endorsing it. So,
Dude, I endorsed it twice. I even re-endorsed it on that episode where we talked about all our favorite endorsements. Dude, it's one of the best inventions.
I can't
known to
believe
man.
I don't remember this, because what I am seeing, I just Googled it, fair listener, and imagine, like the capes they put on you in the barbershop, but then
Dude, they don't need to
with-
imagine. I
with
talked
the
about this
scoop-
thing on the
with a
podcast
scoop
so many
that
times.
sticks out, it protrudes off of your body like 3
You
feet.
suction cup it
It-
to this mirror.
Oh, you suction cup it to the mirror. It really looks dumb.
Dude,
it looks
it
really
is.
dumb.
It
Yeah.
is a
I
game
believe you.
changer. Your
believe you.
wife will love you again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there will not be tiny little hairs everywhere.
Yeah.
You just catch them in there, you put them in the toilet, and
Yeah,
it's
that's great.
awesome. Beard
Oh, yeah.
bib. But my endorsement, and according to you, it's a re-endorsement. Apparently, I never listened to your endorsement because I just
What
discovered
else
this
is there?
podcast.
Yeah.
Mike Birbiglia's Working It Out. I heard about it on, Mike Birbiglia was on Script Notes,
Mhm.
and they talked about
Or
the Ira Glass episode.
On the town. He was on the town as well. He must be making the rounds.
Yeah, he has a new special out, so he's been on everything. But he was on Script Notes, and they talked about his Ira Glass episode, because Ira Glass was on Mike Birbiglia's podcast talking about his stand-up routine, and Mike Birbiglia does like a full-on analysis. Like, this joke, you talked about the subway. Why don't you do a few more jokes on that? And a real, like, a
Mhm.
dream scenario. And I know we there's other podcasts we talked about a good one, and then there was the TV show, a good one with Mike
Mhm.
Birbiglia in it, and we had the director on the podcast. But this is just a real bare bones. Like, he had Nikki Glaser on. They just like talk about her jokes and where she could go with them, and she calls them out. She's like, "Yeah, if I were Mike Birbiglia, I would keep riffing
Sure.
on this joke, but I'm not."
Yeah.
But it's still so fun to see a comedian process jokes. And this one thing he talked about, because Ira Glass was like, "I just don't even know how to write jokes. How do you even start? How do I write?" He's like, Mike Birbiglia suggested
Well, and
making
it's
jokes
fascinating
about the
'cause
subway.
He's a master storyteller as well.
Yeah.
So it's interesting for him to be like, I'm great at this, one of the world's greatest, and also don't know how to do this other thing that feels like a baby step in the other direction.
Right. And so Mike Birbiglia was like, I just do this thing where I would write, like, make a list of setups, like observations, like is hiking just walking, which is kind of what Ira Glass's whole shtick is about, his routine's about. And then I'll just write like 10 jokes based on that, like
I think
one-liners.
5, I think it was the number he said.
Yeah, that's why I said like 10. I'm trying to do my own spin on this. But yeah, five jokes. And I was like, oh, that if I ever had free time, like I have 5 books. I just bought that Gary Vaynerchuk book that was recommended. If I just had free time, man, I would love to just like practice joke writing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure.
And also practice guitar, all the stuff.
Yeah. Well, you
But
could always stop podcasting.
No, if I wasn't podcasting right now, there's no way I would be reading a book and
That's true.
playing guitar.
Well, I am officially late for my meeting where we
No, I
figure
thought
out-
it's 12:30.
No, it's 12.
Well, if you want to email us, we're justshootapod@gmail.com. On social media, I'm at okaplan on Instagram.
And I'm at Mr. Matt Enlow across all social media. This episode was edited by Kevin O'Yang. Thanks, Kevin. And produced by Tyler Small. And you're listening to music provided by the Free Music Archive and the artist, Jazar. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Goodbye.